All right, let's dive into something I think is really cool. We're going to talk about how to take your everyday draw.io diagrams, the ones you use for architecture, for workflows, and turn them from just static pictures into powerful, interactive, and believe it or not, even executable programs.
So let me ask you a question. Think about the last diagram you made. You probably spent a ton of time on it, getting all the boxes and lines just right. But then what happened? It got saved, maybe dropped into a Confluence page, and then it just sat there, slowly gathering digital dust.
And this is the problem, right? We can call it the static prison. Your diagrams are awesome for that initial conversation, for getting everyone on the same page. But pretty soon, they're just outdated blueprints. They're totally disconnected from the actual living system they're supposed to represent. They're just pixels. But what if we could totally flip that on its head? What if we could break them out of that prison? The secret is to stop thinking about your diagrams as just pictures and start treating them as what they are underneath all those visuals, structured data. And the key that unlocks that door is the Nasdanika Drawio Java API. This is the tool that lets us get under the hood, peel back the visual layer, and start interacting with our diagrams as a real, honest-to-goodness data model. Now take a look at this. This shows you that huge shift in thinking. The API doesn't see a JPG or a PNG, it sees a document object. And that document has pages. Each page has layers, and inside those layers, you've got the good stuff. Nodes, which are your shapes, and the connections that link them all together. It's not a drawing anymore. It's a graph of objects you can actually program against. And here is the most important concept of all. Every single thing in your diagram, every box, every arrow, every page, is what's called a model element. What that means is you can get a handle on it in your code. You can ask a node, hey, what are your properties, or who are you connected to? You're not just guessing based on pixels. You're working with real, structured data. Okay, so if everything's an object, how do we find the specific ones we're looking for? Well, that's where the Programmer's Toolkit comes in. The API gives us some really powerful ways to navigate and query this whole model. First up, we have selectors. Now, if you've ever used CSS selectors to style a web page, this is going to feel super familiar. It's basically a path language for your diagram. You can ask for the parent of an element with ... or find all the arrows pointing out of a box with outgoing connection. It's like having a GPS for your diagram structure. And it gets way more powerful than that. You can add these qualifiers to really narrow down your search. So for instance, you're not just saying, give me all outgoing connections. You can say, give me only the outgoing connection that has this specific property with this specific value. This lets you be incredibly precise. Now, selectors are fantastic for finding the elements themselves, getting a handle on the object. But sometimes you don't need the whole object. You just want to grab a piece of data from something related to it. For that, the API gives us this awesome shortcut called property paths. The big difference is a selector gives you back a list of elements, while a property path just gives you back the final value you were looking for. And this little snippet here just shows how clean that is. Instead of doing two steps, first get the parent element, then second ask for its property, you just do it all in one go. /property name literally says, go up to my parent and just give me the value of this property. So simple, so direct. And it's not just about reading data. You can write it back, too. The API has a really slick, fluent way to change the styling of any element. You can programmatically change colors, fonts, even the shapes themselves. Just imagine running a script that checks the health of your services and then automatically color codes your architecture diagram, green for healthy, red for down. That's the kind of power we're talking about here. So, let's put it all together. We can read our diagrams, we can navigate them, we can even modify them, all with code. And that brings us to the ultimate payoff, the real paradigm shift, turning our diagrams from static blueprints into living, executable software artifacts. I just love this quote from the source documentation because it perfectly captures this new way of thinking. The idea is the diagram is no longer just the documentation for the process. The diagram is the process. You model your logic visually, and then you attach your code, your processors, right to the elements in the drawing. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, one killer application is generating entire documentation websites straight from your diagrams. You can run a single command that walks through your diagram, and for every element, it generates a web page, linking everything together automatically. Your visual architecture and your written docs are now one and the same. They literally can't go out of sync. But we can take it even further, and this is where it gets really mind-bending. This is the whole concept of executable diagrams. Step 1, you draw your workflow. Step 2, you link the shapes in that diagram to actual real code, a Java class, a URI, whatever. And step 3, you execute the diagram itself. The diagram becomes a program that orchestrates your code, triggering actions in the exact sequence you drew. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. By treating our diagrams as data, we unlock this incredible world of automation. So what if your next cloud architecture diagram didn't just describe your setup, but could actually be run to deploy it? What if your business process diagram wasn't just a picture, but was the actual engine that ran the process? The possibilities here are absolutely fascinating to think about.